guys, welcome back. For me, it's the same day, have a day off, so I'm going to try to knock a couple of these out so we can finish out our respiratory herb and start to move to formulations, which is the fun part. So today we're meeting a plant that almost everyone has heard of, but very few have actually met. So we're talking about licorice today. Now, before you click away thinking I'm about to make a candy video, I am not. Actually, personally, I loathe licorice, but many people are surprised to find that that candy they're familiar with doesn't get its flavor often from the licorice root at all. The real plant has been appreciated in traditional herbalism for thousands of years and has earned a place in herbal traditions around the world. So today we're going to kind of slow down and get to know this remarkable root. So we'll explore the plant itself, some of the history around it, traditional uses, how we might prepare it, and what you eventually learn from working with licorice. Now, start with the fun part. Who is licorice? Well, it's a perennial plant in the pea family, which surprises a lot of people. When most people think of licorice, they imagine a brown stick or dried root, right? But above the ground, the plant is actually beautiful. It produces delicate pea-like flowers, notice how it ended up in that family, in shades of a pale purple or blue, and grows compound leaves that look very different from the root sitting in your apothecary. Like elecampane, the part herbalists have traditionally valued is that underground root. Sometimes, again, the most valuable part of the plant is not what you see with your eyes. So, one of the things I love about licorice is that it appears in herbal traditions all across the world. Western herbalism, you'll see it pop up in Chinese medicine, Ayurveda medicine. I think that's how you say that, Ayurveda. When you see a plant respected by multiple cultures, right? This again, it's like, might want to pay attention to that, right? People have preserved it, worked with it, and passed that knowledge forward for a long time. Actually, our culture is probably the one that has forgotten the most. So long before scientific instruments, right, could identify the plant compounds, people were respecting how the herb fit into their practice, right? So if you've ever held licorice root before, it's probably not what you expect. I actually am currently out of it. It is woody. It is fibrous, not flashy, not pretty, but when you smell it, there's a natural sweetness mixed with an earthy tone, right? And if you have some or order some, break off a small piece and try one, of course, unless you're allergic to anything in the pea family. Taste it, right? One of the first things you'll notice is just really how sweet it is, and that sweetness is not coming from sugar. It's naturally produced by the plant itself. In fact, licorice root is many times sweeter than table sugar, even though it doesn't taste exactly the same. It's kind of an interesting fact, right? So, why did herbalists traditionally appreciate licorice? Well, if you compare herbal references, you'll notice something interesting. Licorice appears as an incredible in quite a few formulas, not just respiratory. You will see it in digestive formulas, throat preparations, general wellness blends. It seems to be just about everywhere. Why? Well, because herbalists have traditionally appreciated licorice as a soothing, supportive herb that complements many other plants. So one of the biggest lessons licorice teaches us is that not every herb has to be the star of the show to add value, right? Sometimes the plant's greatest strength is just how well it gets along with everybody else. And that's kind of the fun thing about licorice. Now, if we were to peek inside the plant, one of the best known constituents in licorice is glycyrrhizin. It's largely responsible for the root's remarkable sweetness. You'll also read about flavonoids, polysaccharides, and along many other naturally occurring compounds that contribute to the root's complex chemistry, right? Again, we're not trying to remember, just giving some context here. What's more important to understand is that licorice has a unique chemical fingerprint, and that fingerprint is one reason why herbalists have continued working with this root for centuries now. Because we're working with the root, the preparation does matter a little bit too. Again, that tea, right? You would typically prepare that as a decoction as well, right? Where that root is going to be gently simmered instead of steeped like a tea. The extra time helps extract more of the root's constituents. Licorice is also commonly prepared as a tincture, right? Giving herbalists another option for keeping it in the apothecary, because sometimes you don't have a lot of time to simmer one, right? One's not necessarily better than the other. One's just probably more convenient, right? And again, that's why we pay attention to how we're going to prepare it, right? Do we want convenience or do we have time? I think licorice teaches one of the most valuable lessons to me. A plant can have an extraordinary history of traditional use, but not be right for everyone, right? Licorice to me is a very good example of this. People with certain health conditions, such as high blood pressure, kidney disease, or low potassium, or when you're taking certain medications, should definitely proceed with caution and talk to a healthcare professional before using licorice. Just because somebody put it in a formula does not mean it's good for you. And it's generally not recommended for long-term or high-dose usage. And that's not a weakness to the plant. That's wisdom about the plant, right? Again, we're not just asking what's the best herb. We're asking what's the best herb for the person in this situation. And if you meet any of those criteria, well, then you would probably want to stay away from this herb or talk to your doctor, naturopath, whatever. So if you have access to licorice root, I want you to smell it, like really smell it. Taste a small piece, unless of course you fit into the factors that we talked about. Notice how sweet it really is. Open up 2 or 3 books and see how licorice appears in formulas, right? Check a couple recipes and see where they put it, and maybe start to think why. Why do we keep coming back to this root? And you'll start to see the patterns. And recognizing those patterns is one of the best ways to grow your understanding. Again, licorice candy inflames me, but licorice root I appreciate, right? Licorice may not look impressive sitting on your shelf. It's just going to be a root. But for thousands of years, herbalists across multiple traditions continue to reach for it, not because it was trendy, not because it promised any quick fixes, and none of them are quick fixes, but because generations of careful observation earned it a respected place in herbal tradition, right? And the more you study, the more you start to see why people place things in certain places. And then you start to look at why some call for the root, some call for the leaf, some call for the flower, and everything has that beautiful story, right? So this kind of sums up our respiratory herbs. So I want to thank you for joining me. There are more, but these are kind of the hot-hitting ones, right? So we're now going to move to the fun part and talk about formulations of our herbal respiratory system herbs, right? And we're going to look at a few different ways that we would use them, that we would formulate them. Not necessarily always best practice, but again, just trying to apply what we know to how we would then use it. And then once we're done with that one, we're going to start moving into a different body system. So I'm always excited. I'm honestly sick of talking about the respiratory system. So excited to move on to something new. So until next time, stay rooted, stay curious, and as always, keep growing in grace.